How's it going, guys? Andreas here, tuning in from the Venetian in Las Vegas. Let's sit down together and talk a little bit about what's been going on the last 3 weeks. So basically, for me, Las Vegas is not really about anything but poker. I've come here to basically grind 3 weeks, play a lot of poker, and do nothing else. Maybe relax at the pool a little bit, but it just comes down to playing a lot of poker. So I want to share with you a couple of tips that I have when you want to play poker in Las Vegas. And I guess for other stuff in Las Vegas, there's plenty of guys who can talk about this a little bit. Okay, let's start with the casinos first. I recommend playing at 6 rooms. That will be the Aria, the Venetian, Rio, Wynn, the Bellagio, and the Caesars. Let's start with the Aria first. The Aria has unfortunately a long wait list, so you have to wait all the time. So I highly not recommend going there after 2 p.m. during the World Series of Poker. And other than that, if you show up early in the morning, that's great, because I still think it's one of the best poker rooms. If you show up early or very late, you can get a seat, or if you play higher than 5-10, I guess you can get a seat more easily as well. If you always want to get a seat, you better go to the Venetian. The Venetian still has a lot of tables, up to 37 poker tables, and you get limits between 1-2 and 5-10 usually. Also some PLO games for the people that are interested in a great game of pot limit Oma. You can play it here at the Venetian. And in the Rio, the problem about the Rio is, they have a lot of games. You can game select really well. But of course, like maybe you've heard about it, the Rio is really cold. It has a lot of disadvantages. The food is not that great. The dealers are very inexperienced. They're much better in all other rooms on the Strip, especially during the first weeks that they implement like new dealers. The Rio is just not the best experience. Don't play 5-card games at the Rio, because they have time rake, and that means more rake the better. And you pay a lot of money for getting 5 hands in half an hour, and that's just not something I would recommend. Other than that, the Rio has a lot of, as I said, good game selection. You can hop between PLO games and No Limit Hold'em. You don't have to wait for seats that long, and it has a lot of high-stakes games. So if you're comfortable playing 5, 10, 25 pot limit Omaha, they have a new room called the King's Lounge, and in that room they have a lot of high-stakes pot limit Omaha action, mainly, and some mixed games as well. Mixed games they have also at the Rio and at the next room, which I'm going to talk about, which is the Bellagio. I haven't played much at the Bellagio. The reason for that is the games that I would recommend there is 5-10 and higher. I played a little bit of 5-10 in that room, but I wouldn't recommend playing 2-5, because the Bellagio is like one of the only rooms that has a 500 max spine for 2-5. So don't play there. I don't think it's a good option at all. There are like so many better games for 2-5 and 1-3. If you want to play 5-10 or higher, the Bellagio is a very good option, because there are a lot of rich people, and they're dropping some Ks sometimes when you play 10-20. You have to get the right seats though, because the Bellagio, in my opinion, is also some of the tougher wrecks at the 10-20 limits, etc. I only took a couple of shots, but I can confirm that the Bellagio and probably the Wynn have some of the better players out there. If you want to play 2-5, I highly recommend you the Caesars, because it has the lowest rake. Yes, lower rake is better, guys, and it's only up to $4. And if the pot's, for example, 55, they only take $2 out of the pot, which is amazing. You can, even when the table's pretty nitty and you just take down the blinds, you can have a pretty decent win rate, I guess, for a 2-5 limit, maybe around the $25, $30, $35 an hour, even if the table's that really tight. So that's not too bad. Other venues where you pay a higher rake, for example at the Venetian, maybe you're shortened by $15 an hour with a tight table, and that can cost you a lot of win rate. So which room have I not talked about? Yeah, the Wynn. The Wynn is probably the most beautiful poker room, also with everything around it. The Wynn and the Encore, where the poker room is right now, the Paranordel, the one that they belong both together. Definitely the most beautiful place, I think. Problem is to get there, you have to always walk on the strip. You could also get a cab or something, but yeah, it's a long decent walk as well. So if you want to play at a very nice venue where maybe the opposition is a little bit stronger, in my experience over here, the Wynn is also a very nice place. Other than that, in general, when you do those poker trips, be realistic with what you can win. Try to minimize your expenses. If you have a 1K flight, try to go to a place for at least 2 weeks. That's what I would recommend. Unless you're playing really higher, then your win rate is not that you can cover for the flight really quickly. But for Vegas, I for myself would also always go for 2 weeks or longer. What else do I have on my paper here? Well, last of all, first thing you want to do when you play poker, you download the app called Bravo Poker. This app shows you all the poker rooms with whatever waitlist they have, so you can game select really well that way and go from hotel to hotel. Transportation is really easy in Vegas as well. You have Uber, like in other countries in Europe as well, and you have a company called Lyft. They also have a rideshare model where you get a better price than on cabs, and that's also a very nice option. You also have a free shuttle bus from the Harrah's to the Rio, which is the Harrah's is in the middle of the strip, so you can get you to the Rio for free. Basically, you tip the driver $1, and that's all right. Other than that, there's really not too much. Was pretty okay with. I probably covered a trip or so. Didn't run too well over. A couple of hands that I played that were relevant. Then there's like one hand I have to tell you guys, which is the Ace Jack 8-6 double suited. The action goes like this. We have a 1, 2, 5, 10, 20 game going. Pot de Minoma, crazy night. We've been playing for 4 hours. Dynamics already. The game is heated up. So a guy posts 20 blind. He couldn't really straddle, so it was a blind raise. I looked down at Ace Jack 8-6 double suited to the Jack and to the Ace. We're talking 4 cards, and I thought this is a good moment to raise it from the hijack. I think that's quite standard. It goes to the button, which is an old regular, I guess, somewhat tied, but then he calls for the 70, and he goes back to a young short stack who pushes all in for 200. So he goes back to the guy who plays his hand blind. He's like not giving a shit and just calling the 200 cold. So it goes back to me, and we're about $1,800 deep. So there's a couple of options. I can call, or I can 4-bet. And the thing about calling is I risk by calling. I kind of kept my range, and then if the old guy on my left, who's fairly tight, who might not put in the rest of his stack, he had about 420-ish, so if he shoves, then a blind guy knows I don't have a good hand and could come over top, and even though he's a kind of a maniac player, he certainly knows that when I don't come over the top on the 200, when he goes back to the old guy pushing in 420, I hope that's not too complicated, he could basically 4-bet or 5-bet jam all in, and then I would have to fold having 200 in the pot. With that scenario, I think 4-betting is much more appealing to me. I make it 780 to go, and the old guy goes all in for about 400. Not surprising to me because he already called 70. Let's just gamble for it all, right? The short stack is still all in for 200. He goes back to the guy who has like almost any 4 cards. I also think he doesn't have kings double suited. Kings single suited are strong, and he for sure doesn't have aces because he's the guy that always would go 4-bet for a 4-bet with aces for sure. So I'm not too worried about very strong hands, and I think I'm pushing about a 5% equity in that spot. Very long hand. I hope you guys are not bored by now. Let's make matters short. He makes a call for another 500 something. We go to the flop. We have like still 1.1k behind. 2 side pots, and the board comes 9-6 deuce with 2 hearts. I flop middle pair. The best thing that can happen is he checks, I shove, he folds, but that doesn't happen. He goes all in first and makes a stop and go, and now I'm in a pretty horrible spot. I have only middle pair and 3 side cards, and I do the math for a minute, just making sure I don't make a mistake, and go ahead and make the call. Unfortunately, he has my jack blocked. He has 2 jacks, a queen and a 7, and a flush draw. So he flopped pretty good. Don't think he really needed that much to go all in on that 9-6 deuce board though, and I kind of had to make the call. Hand short, the pot is 4,600. I am unfortunately crushed on the flop. against a hand that probably doesn't flop often enough, because since I have a jack, he cannot flop a set that often, and I don't think if he has a bare overpair he's gonna commit on that on a board, you know. I probably could make him fold if the board comes like 6, 7 deuce rainbow or something, or even 9-6 deuce rainbow. He would have just folded if he didn't have a flush draw to go with his overpair, but with the flush draw it's just too strong of a hand. So that's a key part of Vegas. Basically, I have so little equity in that spot. The side cards, even the short guy for 200 is aces, so it's making it even worse. 4.5k goes to the guy with the flush draw, I think, you know, and then he sits there with a lot of money. I think someone won. The aces might have won the side pot or something, the smaller one for 800, but he won that 4.5k, the majority of it. So I won some in Hold'em, and then this pot happened, so I dropped a little bit, and I had to grind it back in Hold'em, and unfortunately the great game of Pot Limit Oma wasn't too nice to me here in Vegas. Took a couple of shots, didn't really go well at 5-10, won like one session and lost like 3-4. Maybe another hand, funny hand. I have aces under the gun. Guy on my left doesn't pay attention. He just sat down having his headphones in, and he basically wants to make it 50, but unfortunately I made it 35, and I didn't realize this guy wasn't paying attention. Otherwise I might have made it 30 with a 10 straddle. And he made it 50, and he couldn't re-raise me, and he had pocket kings. The perfect setup for me, and I couldn't really get the money in on the flop because it was check for deuce to 3 hearts. Turn was a jack, so the action was killed by that point. So setup number 1. Second hand that I set up someone is I have a set of 9s on check 9-3. I have just defended my big blind against a hijack open. Could have also 3-bet, I guess, some of the time, but don't really think he's loose enough for that. So he makes his continuation bet. I check call the flop to check raise turn. Turn is a jack, not the greatest cards, because he could kill the action if he had an overpair. I check again. He bets though. Really feeling somewhat comfortable, I guess. I think he showed a lot of strength. I check raise him to 150. Blinds are 2-5, so that you can more or less see the. And we're 1.3k deep, and you know he calls very comfortable, and then the river is a 9, so I make quads. I hope he has the jack X, which is very likely at this point. You know, he called a turn check raise. He might have trips. Some overpairs and maybe a set of 3s, and he snap checks behind, so at that point I know he has either an overpair or 3s. He shows me the 3s for set under set. Couldn't really get the money. Again, disappointing results. I had 2 setups in Vegas, I think. These were the 2. I didn't get it either time. Well, that's just poker sometimes. I won a lot of smaller pots, mediocre pots, and then on ace 3-3 I had aces once, and the guy had 3-9 suited, and he just lost it all. So I mean, that's a kind of a setup too, even though it was just a single race pot. That pot I won, so there I won some of my money back and a bit more. So if you guys want to know something else about Vegas, if you want to know more hands, I mean, it was basically just a lot of grinding these 3 weeks, so I don't want to make it more exciting than it was. I had a good time here. Not so much okay with how I ran, but that's just poker. I ran well in Scoop at at an 11k banking the big 55. If you haven't seen that, go to my other videos in my YouTube channel. You can find the big 55 final table run with the hands over there. So thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, please leave a comment below and let me know what you think if you want to know something else about Vegas. I'm also gonna show you 2 or 3 videos from the footage that I took, but this is just gonna be about what I think about Vegas and poker specifically. Thanks, guys.